This is part 2 of our two-part conversation with Kush. We recommend you come back to this after listening to part 1 in case you missed it. If not, welcome back to the Thought Bistro. Happy listening.
Welcome to the Thought Bistro podcast with Akhil and Vishrut as we deep dive into a variety of interesting and thought-provoking topics. Join us as we explore the world of ideas and broaden our collective horizon.
So going from the visa topic to the next topic of discussion, which is even important to you even as a US citizen, what about currencies? How do you manage that? Because traveling to 24 different countries requires 24 different currencies, if not more.
In the time of credit cards, where your bank in whatever country you're in can convert US dollars or whichever currency you are using, right, into foreign currency for no foreign transaction fee, then why not use that? So most of my transactions happen through the credit card. I have a Visa Capital One Venture X credit card, which has no foreign transaction fees. Many of these credit cards do offer this. I think the cheapest one that I know of in United States is Chase Sapphire, which is like $95 fee, but I've now upgraded to the Capital One Venture X because it's more travel friendly. That's my go-to. As I said before, you need to take backups of everything. So I have this card loaded on my phone, so I can use this card through my phone. If I lose this physical card, I do also take another credit card, which does have fees for these foreign transactions, but I take it because what if I lose this main card? And I also take my debit card just in case I am running out of cash. At the end of the day, cash is king. If there's cash, you'll get whatever you want in that country. So carry cash, because there's been times when I've been stuck, when I cannot do car parking because that requires coins, when I could not pay for food because the person does not take the credit card. So you don't want to be in that situation. So just carry some cash. One of the best practices that you can do is as soon as you land, get some currency exchanged. I think it's going to be a little bit expensive, but just have some for just in case. You can also go to your bank, whichever bank you use, and ask them, hey, which branch would do foreign currency exchange? And they can order the currency for you. So use some of those best practices for managing your finances or just overall transactions, because it will make your travel journey much more smoother.
I think there are a lot of mom and pop third-party sellers as well who do currency exchange on your behalf, and they are generally cheaper than the bank as well because they are running a small shop of their own.
Yeah, but oftentimes they have their own commissions and charges and things like that. So check the exchange rates, make sure, what you're exchanging, you're getting a fair rate for it. What is the commission they are charging, things like that. And yeah, just beware, do your research.
And also make sure you're carrying enough cash. For example, when I went to Thailand later last year, I just carried $400 something and I ended up using $1,000 something. And I wish I had more cash on me, because every time you go to the ATM to withdraw some cash, there's a fee that the bank charges you to pull out the cash in that different country. And the ATM owner also has their own fees. So carry enough cash. And if you're worried about losing the cash, just keep some, in your left pocket, in your right pocket, in another backpack. Just spread it out. So if you lose one thing, you're not losing all of the cash at the same time.
Kush, in terms of credit card usage and all, what about the exchange rate that you get? Usually, whatever I have experienced, the credit card exchange rates are a bit higher than what you would get if you were carrying local currency or if you were carrying a debit card with the local currency. Has that not been the case for you?
No, it's actually live transaction, meaning, let's just say, if I'm going to India and if I'm buying something, then the rate for that day is the rate that I get through my bank. So if it's 82 rupees for $1, then that's the rate that I'm going to get. And one of the other things to keep an eye out on is when you insert the credit card, that machine that you're operating to, sign and whatever, asks you what currency would you like to accept, the US dollars or the local currency. Always, always, always choose local currency, because US dollars has fees and everything included in it. And in my experience, every time that I've selected local currency or whatever currency that they have, charges you less on your credit card.
All right. I mean, that was going to be my next question, so you preempted it.
Talking about credit cards and talking about POS systems, what other kind of tech have you leveraged other than just, booking your airline tickets, booking your restaurants, and just having credit card transactions? Any other tech that you have?
One of the things that I have leveraged is Tile. Tile is nothing but something that you attach to your keys, or you attach to your backpack, you attach to something valuable. For example, passport is one of the valuable things that you want to have on you all the time when you're traveling. So you want to also make sure that it's with you and have a peace of mind. For iPhone users or Apple fans out there, there's AirTags. A lot of my friends have Apple AirTags attached to their passport cases. So they can, whenever they're leaving a place, they just open that app and they see that they have it with them. Tech like this, I think, makes your traveling life even smoother.
So, Kush, are you one for passport covers or no passport covers? Because I've always seen that passport covers are a faff. You have to take them out every time you need immigration and things like that. So, do you still keep passport covers, or how do you do it?
You don't give the passport with the passport cover on. I mean, usually it's the ones I have seen or the ones that I've seen my friends use. You have passport on the right case, you have your OCI, your global entry, or any other travel-related documents, your COVID card, let's just say, on the other side, right? That's a whole case.
Oh, so it's like a passport pouch.
Right, you can say that. I think just get the one where it's easy to slide in and out your passport.
I have a 15-year-old hand-me-down from my father when he was traveling for his export business like a long, long time ago. It's, every time I take it out, a little bit more of it rips apart. And it's just been hanging out with me ever since, never thought of changing it. Sometimes like little shards are stuck to my passport. I just give the shards to the police officer as well. He'll do the cleaning up process of the passport.
No, dude, I had a couple of times where people gifted me those, passport covers, like iPhone covers, which sort of get onto your passport. And those were such a pain, because every time you have to do immigration, you take the passport out and give it to the customs officer. Then they give the passport back to you. You put it back inside. Oh, it was so annoying.
Bro, it's a huge scam. If you apply for a new passport in India, they ask you for more money and they'll give you, your passport will come with a cover, and they are selling the cover as a supplementary source of income for the government for passports. I do not understand. Listen to our last episode about taxes and government revenue collection and see where this passport book cover external margin is going into.
When we were talking about the passport, a very interesting story comes to my mind where the tech has helped me a lot. We were traveling in India, and a friend of mine and I are going to Gateway of India. So we were going around and checking that place out. And suddenly the friend goes, "Kush, I left my passport in the cab." And the heartbeat started racing. I was running at a crazy speed outside to see if that cab was still there. But fortunately enough, this cab was booked through Uber. So there is a way to call the Uber person back if you have that app, and you can just say, "I lost an item," and the Uber app connects you with the other person, and he came back, dropped off my friend's passport, and you can either tip them on the app, but I just gave him some money cash for delivering it back to us, because it's nice of him, because that friend would have been stuck there, because we had plans to go to Thailand after that. And it's a very scary situation. So you can track it through the Tile app or AirTags. Make sure to use cab ride apps, since you can track the drivers and whatnot if something happens. And just in general, leverage these technologies, because you might not know when what would happen.
losing your passport is such a pathetic experience. I had this experience once. So I did my high school in Singapore. And through Singapore, we'd gone to this school trip to South Korea. And we were supposed to come back from South Korea to Singapore, and then I was supposed to fly to India in about 6 hours. Landed back from South Korea to Singapore, did immigration. Post-immigration to when we picked up our luggage and sat in the cab to go to the place where I was spending those 3-4 hours, I've misplaced my passport. So the next, when I reached this person's house where I was staying for 3-4 hours, I look around my bag and I see I don't have my passport. I mean, this is in 2011. So this is a whole other world. There's no air tag. There's nothing like that to track your passport and things like that. And I was all of 15 years old, just finishing my first year away from home. I froze. I had no idea what to do. The person's house who I was staying at, that person had no idea what to do. It was a harrowing experience because I had to call the airline with whom I was taking the flight and tell them that, this has happened. I can't travel because I don't have my passport and things like that. So I had to cancel my flight ticket. I mean, to make things worse, it was a Saturday. Saturday, Sunday in Singapore, Indian High Commission's closed. So I can't even go get a new passport or anything like that. So I had to spend Saturday, Sunday in Singapore, go on Monday morning to the Indian High Commission, get what was that document called? It was this long yellow document. There was some emergency document. I can't remember the name. Emergency certificate. There you go. It was this massive yellow document which sort of says that, okay, this person's an Indian citizen, but they don't have a passport, so on and so forth. And then I came back to India on Monday night. Now, Monday night in India, I reach India and the immigration officer at Calcutta airport has never seen this document before. So it took me 2 hours to clear immigration because they had to figure out what had to be done to this document. So my parents who were standing outside waiting for me at the airport, my mom literally barged into the airport saying that what the hell has happened? We know he's taken the flight, but he hasn't come out yet. Every single person who was on this flight has left, but this guy has not emerged. So she, almost had one of those movie scenarios where she, broke through security at the airport and came searching for me. But, and the reason she had to break through the airport to come searching for me is because me being a stupid person, I left my phone at the relative's house I was staying at. So I didn't have a phone on me for this duration of this flight. So, it was a cluster of errors on my behalf, and it was not an experience I want to relive. So definitely tag your passports. Make sure you're using Uber and things like that, because there has been a time, again, with me where I have left something behind in a cab and that guy came back and gave it. It was no harm done. And you just, tell him that from wherever you're starting to wherever you're coming back, just let me know the fare for that leg of the journey and I'll give you that amount of money.
So the moral of the story is, feel free to lose your child and your loved ones. Do not lose your passport.
I guess it would be easier to find your child and your loved ones because there is two-way contact. With your passport, there's only one-way contact.
Moving on to the next big chunky topic that is yet been discussed. Doesn't your boss just kill you back at your work? Like you're out there going on 2-week trips, going out to 20, 30 different locations. And that's a huge time off of work.
Biggest advantage that I have is work from home. Most of these trips, when I plan, so let's just say if I'm taking a 2-week travel plan, I don't tend on taking a 2-week break because, it's sort of nice to work and travel at the same time. There's a word for it in the industry. It's called workation. What you do on a workation is you'd work on your country time. So US Central Time, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in another country. Just find out what that time is in another country. For example, for me to work in India from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. CST, I start work at 6 p.m. or sometimes 5 p.m. IST and end my work around 2 a.m. They also call it like the graveyard shift, which a lot of Indian people working for American companies do that because they have to work in the US time zone. But overall, whenever I've visited Germany, for example, or any of these European countries, I have worked half of the journey and I have tend to take like maybe a couple of days off here, a couple of days off here, and you work and you travel.
It must definitely hinder your efficiency. Talking about it is easy. 5 a.m., 9 a.m., working from 8 p.m. up until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. It's a hassle, man. Like, you don't think it takes a hit on it, the kind of work that you're performing?
Not really, because I tend to take breaks when the projects have eased down or when I know that it's not going to require a lot of work from me. You know your work well. So it's not that you have to get that work done in that specific time unless you're working on something that it has to be done on that time, like a ticket or something in IT. But at the end of the day, I have very well communication with my boss. I do tell him that this task is going to get completed by the time. If I do tend to get some work which is outside of my working hour, I tend to grab a cafeteria, complete that work, and carry on with my travel plans. I personally don't think it hinders my work because of the confidence that I have on how well I can do this work, how efficiently I can do this. If anything, it actually helps me think outside the box. Since I'm in another country, I tend to go around. Like, for example, Prague. I love Prague. It was one of the best places that I've visited in 2022. Fun fact, Prague that you see right now in Czech Republic, the first layer of the city that it's built on, it's actually the second level. The original city is underneath it. So in the basement or in the first floor, now there's bars and whatnot. Because of traveling around Prague, I was able to learn the architecture and all these different things. Like, your mind is just wandering around so much. Some technological ideas or some solutions clicked to me, and I was like, oh, what if I was able to plan this code instead of that code, or do this design, architectural design in cloud in this way instead of that way. So because of having that open breathing space, I am able to even perform well most of the times.
He basically works on his timing, brother. You have to time these things well, as he's saying, when the pressure at work is lesser, when a project is just finished. So you have to definitely be smart about it, is what Kush is saying, and also plan your shit out. I think from whatever he has said so far, he is a very well-planned person. He makes sure he has his things in order. So I can definitely take this because I hate planning. I can't plan these things out very well. I'm a more of a spur of the moment kind of guy.
Yes, exactly. Nothing can be done without planning, especially work. I have been recognized as work to be sort of like the most organized person in the team. And there's no hidden secret behind that, but just using Microsoft To Do or some sort of checklist. I have Microsoft To Do by work that needs to be done by the end of the day, by clients, by long projects that needs to be done within 3 months, 6 months. So overall, I know the list of things that I need to be working on or have deadlines for certain things. And I have personal to-dos as well on the things that I need to do for the day, as well as for the travel list. Because it just doesn't make you feel like you're confused about what needs to be done or put you in a zone where you're just blank, like, hey, I cannot function anymore.
I think COVID has opened this Pandora's box. Along with COVID came so much negativity and so much destruction world. Alongside came little hope called work from home, and this little hope of people starting to believe that I am more than my work and my life is more than, my commitment to my company. And suddenly people are willing to travel and they have these options because of work from home. Another thing COVID brought along was hideous airports and an awful, awful time that comes along with it. I just traveled to Canada on a 37-hour travel time, in which most of it was spent at the Japan and the Chicago and the Indian airport. And all the airports have these guidelines. You have to get there 3.5 hours, 4 hours before the flight because we are just jam-packed and the immigration is going to take time. We have news of people sleeping at the New York airport and their fights being at the Toronto airport. So how has your experience at the airports been post-COVID, pre-COVID?
I would say that travel overall has been luxurious for me. If we start by the journey to the airport and waiting for an airline, this is how it goes. I have something called global entry. Global entry also includes TSA pre-check. To make it easier for you to understand these things, there is an interview, or you just apply for global entry, you apply for TSA pre-check, and there's an interview that you go for. And there's a separate line in United States. There's not a lot of people in that line because you have been verified as a safe traveler. So you don't have to remove shoes, you don't have to remove your laptop. It's such a relief to just go through the airport security. Once you enter the airport, you have to wait on those hard benches, right? I don't. Why? Because I have something called priority pass. I sit in lounges around the world. And you ask, Kush, how do you get all of these things? It's quite simple. Find a credit card that lets you use priority pass, pays for your global entry, and all these kind of things. What would you recommend, Kush, then? Capital One Venture X is one of my go-tos. I can put a link to that card in this podcast description. There's many other ones that you can go for, but I think Capital One has been my favorite so far. And do your research. A lot of companies are trying to get your business. If you do end up becoming a travel addict like me, I think you will find this pretty good because, you get food in those travel lounges. Sometimes you also, if there's no travel included or if there's no lounges in that airport, I've seen like Pennsylvania or some other places, the spa where you can sit on one of those massaging chairs for 30 minutes to an hour. They let you use it for free because every time you go into one of these lounges, that priority pass pays that place for your entrance, which is from $30 to $50 per visit.
That's damn cool, man. I think priority pass and global entry for those of you in the US is definitely something you can look into. TSA pre-check is only available for US citizens, right?
That is correct. But global entry is also available for other citizens.
India became the 11th country to support global entry in Feb this year, which is literally now, it's 6 days ago. So our podcast is pretty relevant for everybody now.
Go get global entry. So I guess we've covered just about everything when it comes to travel, from flights to hotels to visas to currency to TSA pre-check to annoying airports. Kush, just any last thoughts that you have, any last tips that you have to share with us?
So going over all these topics, it's possible. If you really want to travel to all these different countries, if you want to see the world around you, it is possible. I think the saying that goes, if there's a will, there's a way. I think it's very true. Because at the end of the day, you get into that 9 to 5 routine and you just keep doing that again and again and again, right? But think about this beautiful earth that you're born on. Would you not want to see what these neighboring countries like, what these different states look like? I think if you go travel, there's memories that you make. A lot of times when I meet a new person, 90% of the time, the icebreakers start with, which countries you have visited or what's your travel been like? I would say traveling makes you memory rich, if anything, even though it takes some money and if it takes some time. But that memory richness, I think it's going to go a long way.
We encourage you to go out and check all of the resources in the description below, as well as to share your experiences and anything we might have missed on, traveling tips or whatever you might have to add to it.
So thanks a ton, Kush. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for showing us some of the possibilities and some of the ways that are less explored. Yeah, I guess we just have to all start planning our lives better, doing some more Google searching and finding the things that work for us. Hope you guys had a good time. And thanks once again, Kush, for being here and for talking to us.